YouTube. Okay, you're all set.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, April 27th. This is a meeting of the Master Plan Committee. I will do a roll call vote for a quorum. Watson.
Here.
Signs.
Here.
Marklear.
Here.
DeMaria.
Here.
Stivers.
Here.
Braccio.
Here.
And McKee.
Here.
Very good. Thank you all.
And Luttrell
So-
is here too, right?
Oh, and Luttrell is here. I always forget that person.
Don't worry about it.
So the first thing on the agenda is it Sam's chapter?
Yep. Sam's chapter still has a few data holes in it that I'm working to plug. And
Do you have the data that you need?
I think so. Maybe you'd forwarded a number of things to me that's helpful, but I just need to work through that. And I'm actually Judith had raised a point about getting the text to match the new data, which I think I can do fairly quickly. The chart production is more of a challenge for me in terms of at least quick turnaround on that stuff. So Judith, what do you need in terms of the actual charts at this point?
You know, the charts, I'd say the charts are probably the lower priority because, I mean, this is going out for public comment. And if a chart isn't there, it's not there. I mean, we can post a chart on the website in the next month. And I think if people, are desperate to see a particular chart, that's fine. It's getting the text.
Yep.
The data points in the text, because then that allows us to kind of close a final version. And then it's just a question of saying, well, we get public comment, any public comment back, we can do a final version. So I'd focus, more on the text, making sure you're comfortable with that, as opposed to getting the charts done.
That was my thought. I just want to be sure I wasn't missing anything there. So
Yeah.
I will work on it today.
I mean, I'm not a chart person, but I don't know if there's anyone else that's good.
I could do them. It just takes a while. You got to
okay.
work on the formatting and get the lines and the dots right, which you could do wonderful things that way if you're really good at it. I'm sort of a brute force chart kind of person. Done, but
so the only thing I'd say is just make sure you got tracking on.
Yeah.
Because I have actually added an earlier version of your chapter into the final document, so that'll just make it easier to format.
Okay. We'll do it. And I'm still waiting. Greg Martineau was going to get me some summary points for accomplishments for the last 10 years. And he's said a couple of times now he'll do it and he's working on it. So I'm expecting it will be soon.
Do we know where he lives?
No, but,
I can make cookies. I can take cookies.
We can find it out.
So
that was always my business approach, is if someone didn't get me something, I just used to stand in the doorway and then they felt really, really guilty. I'll do it now.
So is there anything that we need to look at in Sam's chapter and decide on, or?
Let's just have, I don't think so, because I think we looked at pretty much everything. Here we go.
We talked about at least the high points in there at least one point in the past. So
yeah, I think
it's still too long, Judith. I still struggle with that. I whacked out a lot of stuff from last time around, but we still got a lot of stuff there. Although it is 3 separate pieces in there.
Yeah. I think it's the first and second pages that feel long, because it's narrative.
Yeah.
But I'd go with what we have for now, and then we can edit if we as we get closer to the final.
Okay.
It didn't seem too long reading it.
It was riveting, but
Well, actually, to tell you the
Amy
truth,
has read the
I
whole
read the
thing.
whole thing from start to finish, and
Wow.
it's an easy read, and it's very good if we do say so ourselves.
Yeah. I think it's a much better read than the old one.
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flows better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Kate that did the formatting,
Yeah, and it's great.
she read it, she's and she said she thought it was really, one, very interesting, and two, that the key stuff that we were focusing on seemed very appropriate and relevant, and she said it was very easy to read. So
Yeah.
that's a kind of our first independent public comment. She lives in Groton, so
And how much did you pay her? Cookies?
nothing. She'll come to our wrap party, but
Okay.
I offered to put her name in the acknowledgements and she refused. So
Is that an RAP party? I'm in.
A WRAP.
WARP, yeah. Tickets will be issued on submission of final documents. Okay. Shall we look at, the only other chapter that's got a couple of things that we need to look at is open space. Just let me, hang on a sec. Let me just share my screen. Oh, can you enable screen sharing, Colleen, for me? Thank you.
You should be good.
Okay. Chapter 5. Just bear with me while I page. Oh, I meant, is that a bit bigger? Size all right, guys?
Yep.
Let me just see if I can. These are just placeholder comments. So. It is in natural resources. Okay, so this is a section that Debbie added. We talked about this a couple of meetings ago, and the suggestion was that we need more kind of punch, I guess is maybe a good term, on climate change sustainability. So Debbie has updated this little section, if you can read as we go. And she's also suggesting that we change the recycling committee to sustainability committee. Now, one of the things that I was a bit concerned about was whether or not this was going to overlap with what they're doing on the MVP future projects and the local hazard mitigation plan. So I talked to Melissa Danza about it, because she and Neil Aspisi are the kind of point people for that. And she felt that actually the idea of a sustainability committee that provides the, if you like, the governance over those projects is a good idea, because although either SEMA or the EPC is responsible for individual projects and goals in the master plan, there isn't actually an overriding body that is looking at climate change per se and sustainability. So she was happy that we added this into the master plan. So,
oh, Judith, I'm glad to hear that. I don't think I wasn't actually thinking in that exactly that when I wrote it. I was thinking about, the vision survey and the number of participants who wanted to see some sustainability. It came up as, I think, important or very important. And I tried to highlight, first of all, I think we wanted to put something in here, right? So what I tried to do is highlight that there's already a lot of work being done,
Mhm.
and for the MVP or the other documents, goals, et cetera, at the school. So in the municipal, so the idea wasn't to sort of call out anybody or anything like that, but just to say that, also recognize that Massachusetts has a greenhouse gas emission goal. This is a state goal that we have to meet. And, I know people are working on it, but so just to kind of recognize that the state has these goals and Southborough's doing our part, and look how much we've already done already. So that was sort of the idea, what I tried to capture. By the way, I don't think we should, I think I wrote to you separately, Judith, that I don't think we should link to the law, because it does get kind of messy on the
Okay.
mass climate policy. And they've, since then, the 2021, I think they just actually passed something else, even in 2022, that's more like I think it's the roadmap. I'm not sure if this one's the roadmap, but that other one is actually easier to read. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of legislation around this, as it kind of rolls out. So I kind of like to mention it, like, the state has it and Southborough's following these goals. So what I was thinking of wasn't so much governance, but of course I like that because I like governance. But really kind of a place even, so that people can bring their ideas, find out what's going on, things are put on an agenda. It's not that this group is going to, spend money, but when I looked at other towns, and I used to be on the recycling committee, and when it turned into the green technology committee, we were doing stuff 15 to 20 years ago, and it was called the recycling committee and kind of morphed into green technology. So I'm kind of suggesting, like, so much has been done in Southborough that the name, I feel, and there's a lot of different names, somebody could object to this name, but like when I looked around at other, similar towns, and of course we can look at like Wayland and Lexington and Concord, and, it was even Weston and Westboro and closer towns, Groton, they're all kind of calling it sustainability. And the committee and the MVP and the other documents that are prepared, I can never remember what that L one is, the
Local hazard mitigation plan.
LHMP, that one doesn't come up.
LHMP, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so that is like, when you talk about sustainability, sort of the committee or group that all those documents sort of fit under there. It's like one-stop shopping. If somebody is looking for those documents, they can find them as they need to be updated. There's less, I guess, more efficiency. Now others are working on, and also in terms of grants. And I think that this is an area, and I think Sam Stivers, you mentioned something to this effect also. I mean, I think that there may be some, if it's, I don't really know, but people who are looking into grants and stuff, this is sort of an area where these, kind of ideas can be vetted, and maybe there's some, harmonization. And clearly MVP fits in here. And I think sustainability is the right way to frame it. Some towns actually have their tree policies that they work on through this committee, and kind of some other thing, that you can have various different charges. So that's what I was thinking. I think recycling is simply an old term, and it actually is one piece, of course. But I also didn't want it to be kind of misinterpreted in any way of anything that is the charge of the Public Works Planning Board. Although, they haven't been meeting, but one thing that they do annually, it seems, is they do meet to talk about changes at our transfer station or change in fees and things like that. So I wanted to make sure, like, this committee is not responsible for, that's not my vision of what a recycling committee would be. And I can tell you, as being on the recycling committee at that time, we did try to make changes to the transfer station, and I don't think we were very successful, but to put up the signs that we did put up. So I just want to make sure that it's not stepping on Public Works Planning Board, even though, at one point they will be working together again. but they are the group, I think, that is kind of the oversight for the DPW and the town. I think if we call it the recycling committee, there would be a perception that that's something that the DPW is doing. And so that's my kind of spiel. Sorry about so long about that. But that's why I was hoping that and I'm not a voting member, so this is my hard sell, but I would hope that the, members would kind of support changing that name and kind of broadening the topic to, to sustainability. Really happy that Melissa, thank you for reaching out. Super happy about that. And then I'm also proposing, these are just some high level goals that I came up with. And, the one is, sort of strengthening these partnerships and proactively manage. I think that the adaptation and the resiliency is really super covered. But in terms of documenting what are we doing proactively, again, it's not that it's not getting done. I think it is by a lot of different people, but it's really coming up with something even to show the public, or so the public can interact with town leaders about and have a say in what is getting done on sustainability.
Debbie, I think this is great. I don't think you have to worry about stepping on the toes of the Public Works Planning Board as a member. We have no toes at this point, or feet or arms or legs, effectively. But I think, at least for me, one of the goals of the master plan is to create places where we can connect a variety of initiatives going forward. And this is an important piece to have here, I think. And so I think broad is better than detailed generally. So as time passes, people can find this as a place to connect to and expand on in a variety of ways. And again, I think it's an important component. On the goals, I would actually see the establishing of the committee as a recommendation. And there's a broader goal that I can't come up with the right text for off the top of my head, but something like, enhance, reinforce Southborough's sustainability efforts over the next decade through a variety of initiatives, or some, stuff like that, I think, to broaden the goal that then can.
Say that again, Sam.
Nice, yeah, good.
Enhance
I was kind of
Southborough's-
struggling a little, Sam. I was just trying to get something down.
No,
I
think
agree with you,
it's
yeah,
great,
goals bigger.
Enhance Southborough's efforts or success with a variety of sustainability initiatives or something. That's, again, poorly stated, but that's the concept, and maybe I or others can think about better words for this. But again, for me, the key thing is not so much the exact words, but the concept here that people can come along later and refine appropriately.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think, as I said, I think it was, I'm kind of a new, fresh pair of eyes. You guys have been working on it for a long time. So when I popped in, I knew you were putting stuff in your chapter, Sam, but it just sort of hit me I think something needs to go in here. And it took me a while to say, oh, okay, this may be the chapter where some people go. And, I think in the write-up, I put a reference to your chapter. So, for more details on MVP and other things, see chapter 8. But yeah, I thought it was missing. So I really appreciate that. And just kind of grab some goals from my own thoughts, or sort of similar to what other towns, but I do agree. These are recommendations. Is the goal to form a sustainability committee?
The goal isn't.
No.
The goal is to enhance sustainability.
The recommend
Yes.
the
Okay.
sustainability is just an enabler to make that happen.
Right.
I think that's a good point, Sam.
So I
Okay,
think
good.
that's better text, Judith. Thanks.
So do we want to keep the recycling committee or the recycling goals separate then?
Yeah, that doesn't now fit.
So do we want to merge? Do we merge recycling into sustainability?
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so mash the two together.
But not reestablish a recycling committee.
No.
That
Take
will,
that one
that will
out,
be
yeah.
covered under the sustainability.
And then maybe do some wordsmithing on the other recommendations to broaden them.
Okay. I can do that. I'll do that in the formatted version. Okay. Excellent. I think that was it on this one. Yep. That's it.
Good progress.
So are you still waiting for anything else on that chapter?
There's Miss Katura. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
We miss
No, I-
you.
Thank you. I've been so MIA on this. I'm so sorry. And this is also a really tough time for me. I'm gonna have to leave by like 8:30 to get my kids off to school, but I can stay until then. So
Good.
I thought I would
Katura,
just pop on
commented
as long as I could.
that your 100-page chapter is due this afternoon. So I hope.
Yes,
you
I know.
make progress.
No, I wanted to thank you for putting that together, Sam. It looks great, and I missed the last school committee meeting, so I wasn't able to present it to the committee. But I think it's similar enough to the last one, and definitely in line with the facts. So I think we can, I will definitely bring it to the next one and see if anybody has any comments. But I thought it looked great, and then I thought the implementation plan looked great too.
Good.
So
Well, again,
I thought I would
we're
just.
trying to connect it to the school's strategic plan, which there's a lot of that in there, obviously. And it's
Yep.
very consistent, as you suggest here, with what some of us have talked about with Greg
Yeah.
and others over the last couple of years, as a matter of fact. So, and Katura, I do have a question for you. I had asked Greg, I think you saw, for some bullet points on progress since the last master plan. And he was very supportive, said, I'll work on it. And I've not heard from him. Do you happen to know where he is with that?
I don't know. And I did see that.
I'll follow
I
up
was
with
trying
him.
to think about what might be a good way to link in his regular presentations to the master plan, because he does give us regular updates
Right.
on what's happening, and I think that I'll connect with him on that, but I think that it might have to do with his evaluation, because he usually has his goals are targeted to the strategic plan and very much sort of in line with that. So it might work well to just sort of link that so that there
Okay.
isn't sort of an extra project for him to do,
He
in
said-
terms of coming up with that.
His response to me was that should be very easy to do. It sounded
Yeah.
like he had a bunch of stuff there. One thing I
Yeah. So
waffled
I think
on.
it's pretty similar. Yeah.
Good. I waffled on, do you include, we survived COVID, which is to me a remarkable accomplishment. And we don't talk a lot about COVID in the rest of the plan generally, but it's in there in various places, I guess. But that to me is a testimony to the management strength and resiliency of the administration and staff and students and community, in fact, which shouldn't go unrecognized, I think. But I defer to him on that. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because last year there wasn't anything in particular in the sort of his goals having to do with COVID. But what ended up happening was when we did his evaluation, or not, every school committee member of all three committees, provides their feedback, and many people basically recognize that one of the goals is the health and safety of the students, and also the social emotional well-being of the students. And so that was all addressed in a lot of that feedback, because that was really, that's where that lies. But yeah, that was definitely a focus last year, and a lot of people mentioned it.
Yep.
So,
And
but
the
yeah,
point-
hopefully that's mostly behind us, but we'll
Hopefully.
knock on wood. We'll see.
But the point I take out of that is the school management and staff apparently did have the appropriate infrastructure, capacity, policies, et cetera, in place to be able to deal with that in a variety of ways, versus a group that was totally unprepared for that, for example. So I think that's, again, testimony to the strength of the system, structure, management, staff, students, families, et cetera. So I
Yeah,
would
well,
encourage them.
I agree with that. I think some of it was happenstance in a way because Mary Ellen Duggan became head of director of health and wellness basically the year before the pandemic started. And she ended up taking a lead role in all of that. And then some of it was also smart thinking in the beginning when this all started of putting together the medical advisory team and the group that was going to advise the schools. So I think it was really lucky that Mary Ellen was already in place, and then really smart to put the medical advisory team in place. And, there was a little bit, I think for everybody, a little bit of scrambling in the beginning, but then it was pretty stable for the rest of the time.
And maybe that's the event, important thing. One of the important things since last master plan is creating the health and safety infrastructure that turned out to be hugely important and helpful relative to the pandemic, something like that. So anyway, I will ping Greg again myself, and you can remind him. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm talking to him later today, so I'll mention it.
Even better. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next topic is the implementation, but before we do that, Colleen, there were a couple of hands raised from people that I didn't recognize. Did they just drop out or they've gone?
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
We scared them away.
Maybe they've gone. Maybe they're in the wrong meeting. Joshua, somebody, I think. Okay, well, they'll come back if they are anxious to join us. That's fine. Okay, let me.
So is there anything else that we need on any other chapters, or is that it?
No, that was it on the chapters. Let me just show you. This is the implementation plan, which, if you remember, are all the recommendations pulled out into the final chapter, which is going to be chapter 9. And then we'll do a cross-referencing back. So just a couple of things I just wanted to call out. I've kind of amended the time frame to short term to add a little asterisk to say that a project can, or an activity can be ongoing after a short-term project. So a number of people had wanted to put ongoing into their timeframes. And the problem with ongoing is it makes it really difficult to measure completion because it's ongoing. Plus, frankly, if it's ongoing, that suggests it's already happening. So, which is fine if we can mark it as complete. But so I've just amended it so that we can have ongoing, but there has to be a specific short-term action or project that then we can say it's completed, and then it'll continue. So, for example, I think there was a couple of things in there that the OSPC wanted to put into the open space chapter about, I think, education or information like that. So I marked that as short-term with an ongoing. Because obviously, if it's ongoing and it needs money, they'll need to kind of go back to the budget process every year anyway. So that's that one. Okay, there's just a couple of things here. So the comments. This was sidewalk network. We never actually decided what it was originally planning board, but do we want that as public works planning board? Are they the sidewalk people?
Do you think select board or public works planning board, Sam and Lisa, for construct, repair sidewalks?
I think Public Works Planning Board is supposed to advise on things like that, but the select board, I think, has a major impact on the budget for doing those kind of things. So it could more make it happen than Public Works Planning Board. I don't know.
Create bike lanes, connect sidewalks to the trails. So is that select board, you think, to plan that?
I think it's a combination, but I think ultimately the select board could lead the charge on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. We could direct, I think, Lisa, and then Public Works Planning Board or others could work on the DPW could work on the details of implementation.
Samuel, I'm still chair. I can delegate that to you and make that one of your responsibilities if you'd
Yes.
like.
I'll start on that on May 11th.
Okay, thank you.
No, you have to be done by May 10th.
Okay, so this is now, so the yellow highlights in the left-hand column are just so that I know what I have to update into the final version. So that's just editing stuff. So, but there
Hey,
is.
Judith, some of these things in the housing are ongoing. These are not just a point project and done in the housing. I'm glad you
Okay.
added that section because when I was going through it, it's one of these things. Yeah, all these things are short-term goals, but it's an ongoing goal.
All right, I can let me go. So let me just, I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
Anything that feels like it's ongoing, I'll just add.
Or Judith, do we actually sort of put an asterisk on the appropriate ones all the way through and use it as a global adjustment there?
That's
Yeah.
what that's what I'm doing. I just have to go back to the source documents to do that.
Okay.
I haven't done it in this one.
So the asterisk would say, this is a specific short-term objective, but efforts need to be ongoing to a
Yeah.
variety of additional
Mhm.
or continuing projects, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yeah.
So it's a simple way to, I'm guilty. I sprinkled many ongoings in the stuff that I sent back. So sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. So this is goal 4 for housing.
Yeah. So I kind of like said, I didn't feel comfortable with Shopsy, assisting Southborough residents obtaining housings that they can afford.
Tom, what about the
Expanding the tax
affordable?
defer-
Sorry, I was thinking, what about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? For those?
Well, I just have I guess, maintain housing. I mean, is the Affordable House Trust allows you to maintain your house, new boiler, new roof, new windows, etc. That's
Well, it
maintain.
depends. Okay, it depends what you mean by maintain. I mean, through COVID, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund supported rent and mortgage assistance. So in a sense, that's maintaining what you have. I guess it would depend on the definition of,
Right.
of what you're looking for maintain.
And that's why I questioned it. That's all. For discussion.
Yeah, to me, maintain means stay there as opposed to get housing and then, be evicted or something. So I don't know if there's a better. If there's a better way to describe that.
What about assist residents just with how?
I mean, the goal, sorry, just so
No, go ahead.
quick intervention. The goal, we don't actually need a time frame and a funding on because it gets too complicated because it's more like a roll up for the time frame, and the funding is at the recommendation level. So it's really these 3 down here, 4.1, 2, and 3 that we just need the time frame and the responsibility for. I mean, you could put whoever we want in the responsibility.
I guess you could leave it as select board because all members of the Board of Selectmen are on the Affordable Housing Trust anyway.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I would leave it as select board.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, we through that ATHF could make it happen. So
Yep.
Would it
Senior-
help to say obtain stable housing? If maintain is a issue?
Well, maintain, I think now we defined it, but what about obtain? Does that, I mean, we're talking
Well-
about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Does that help people to buy a house? That's what,
It can,
Yeah.
it could,
can, okay.
certainly.
okay,
Uh,
then that's
Is it,
fine.
for instance, sorry, Tom, is it, for instance, when Stockwell Lane became available, the town purchased it back and then remarketed it to a family that met the requirements.
Okay.
So,
Do you, not to go back, Judith, but do you need time frame in funding sources for H 3.2 and 3.3?
Yes. Sorry.
So I'd say short term in town on both.
Miss those gaps. Thank you.
senior tax deferral and workout programs is definitely select board.
Okay.
That's, I would say, short-term asterisk ongoing.
Then the funding would be what, town?
Well, if it's a work-off program, there's not actually funds expended per se. You could put town on some instance of something that outside the norm may happen, Tom.
There's also grant money available for those kind of
Yeah.
things sometimes, so.
So
I would leave it blank if you could, or just say town / grants.
grants is external. Yeah.
External.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
I suppose that could be select board. I'm not quite sure, Sam, what are your thoughts? I'm not sure how we, for a downtown listen to me, sorry, down payment assistance program. I'm not quite sure how that could be funded other than through grant.
I think we could maybe organize it or plan it or something and coordinate the process.
Yeah,
So,
maybe work with legislators and, try to
yeah,
come up with the programs. Yeah, select board, short term. Hopefully external.
yeah.
Okay.
In the last one, I was thinking, is this more of it's a tool for planning. It's not a tool for housing. We all know the safe haven status and all the benefits it brings, but that's more of a planning board tool.
So I thought
I know-
that was a Shopsy goal, one of Shopsy's goals.
No, it shouldn't be a Shopsy goal to get 40B. Everybody benefits when you hit 40B and you have more control. But Shopsy's charge is not to get 40B. We can go
Well, this
beyond
doesn't
40B.
say to get 40B, it just says to achieve safe haven, which gives us local control, means that we have created affordable housing, isn't that Shopsy's charge?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. We don't care about 40B. We care about affordable housing. I mean,
Correct, right. But
it's a byproduct of. If there was no 40B, we wouldn't even have this line here because Shopsy doesn't care about 40B.
Mhm. But 40B.
I'm open to debate on this. If it's Shopsy, it's Shopsy. I'm just saying, it's not. Our goal is not to reach 40B for the town and keep 40B 10% affordable housing to obtain the 40B. That is not our
Correct.
goal. That is not our charge.
Well, so the way I see it, it's not, Shopsy's charge is to facilitate the creation of affordable housing. And the safe haven gives the town more flexibility to
Gives
do
the
what they
planning
want to
board,
do in that.
right. In essence, the
So-
planning board. That's why I suggested planning board. But
Mhm.
I'm open for either one.
But it does create affordable housing. You look at Madison Place, although Madison Place is not cheap, it creates a housing opportunity for a lot of people who couldn't afford to buy a house in Southborough, for example. By the way, it's Safe Harbor, not Safe Haven, Judith.
Oh,
Same
So
concept.
is there a way, so here's a thought, because I always think of that 40B status, it's an outcome as opposed to something, you can't go out and say, do this and we'll 40B. It's an outcome of having a housing set of housing solutions.
No,
So
it
yeah.
could be a goal. Many towns actually have it as a goal to get more control over housing development, for better or for worse. And so I think it's legitimately a goal or
But is that
recommendation.
Whose goal?
Yeah, whose goal is right?
well, I mean, it should be a town goal, because
Yeah.
doesn't the town ultimately want local control?
Yeah.
And continue, not to say that we reach, the 10% and then Shopsy
Probably
disbands, that
upstairs.
it's a continual, you continue to create affordable housing after that, but that once you reach that, it puts the town in a better position and gives the town more flexibility to do what they
And many
want.
towns do 40B projects after they've reached the threshold, as a matter of
Right.
fact. Doesn't say you have to
Right, but
stop.
they have a much stronger foundation to negotiate from.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, that's Shopsy. And because creating affordable housing will help us reach safe harbor.
But it sure sounds like Shopsy is not inclined to view that as one of their objectives.
No, because Mimi, your last statement makes me still point the planning board. I forgot what the last statement you made is, saying something like, once we achieve it, we have, I think not control, but we have more influence on additional housing. When 40B comes on, Shopsy doesn't say, yay, we have more control on what people can build. That's a planning board tool.
I think
But
I'd
like I
agree
said,
with that.
I don't understand.
if it's Shopsy, it's Shopsy, and we'll keep it that way.
But isn't that in the housing production plan? To reach safe haven?
I don't, you know what, that's a good question. If it's in there, maybe it describes what safe haven is. Like I said, I'll yield to the majority.
Okay, everyone knows what I think. Everyone knows what Tom thinks. Everyone else?
I lean toward planning.
So
board
is there a
myself.
way, so
I do
is there,
too.
Oh, wait, we might have a majority.
Right.
I didn't hear you, Bill.
I think you do. So planning board it is.
okay. Short term, Mimi, short term and ongoing.
Yeah. Hopefully very short term.
Okay.
Yeah, the
But
town
did we
is
have
gonna
our
fund that.
did the census come out? Did our number go down? Isn't this census supposed to change
Yeah,
the percentage?
2020 census is out.
Yeah, we have 3,700 units.
Okay,
And I think we have 3,700 residential units in the town. And I think we
37 is
have
the target.
298 affordable units.
So
Or
70
that
odd.
units that count towards the
yes, yeah.
SHI.
So we're 70 something shy. I think that's external funding. The town is not going to build 40Bs probably.
Yeah, I would say that external too.
The
Well,
developers.
this isn't building 40Bs, it's facilitating the creation of affordable housing.
Okay, is that a better recommendation then? What you just said, Mimi? Facilitate the development or facilitate
The creation
achieving
of
it. Facilitate achieving the creation of affordable housing in order to obtain 40B status. Is that a better goal recommendation language, do you think?
I would just take 40B out of there. Achieve 10% affordable housing to obtain safe harbor status.
Except the 40B is what has the safe harbor status.
Mm.
Yeah, but it looks like it looks like you have to have 40Bs in order to obtain that status. Which is
I agree. Maybe I agree. Just say achieve 10% affordable housing. And just take the 40B safe haven out, because that really shouldn't matter. Our goal should just be the 10%.
Yeah, I like that better. Then you
Okay.
can put, I'm okay with putting Chopsy there.
Compromise. Love it.
Good job, guys. Good job. Okay. What have we got here? Some development. I don't think we've got any more comments. This is all. Oh, okay. Well, now on to recycling. We're going to merge these
Right.
with
Sustainability.
but it would then be the Public Work Planning Board, yeah? Or would it be the Sustainability Committee?
What did we have for the Sustainability Committee again? Can you slide down there?
Oh, I didn't carry it over into here. Hang on.
Oh, okay. I guess what I would be inclined to do is take the recycling stuff and distribute it through the sustainability language that you had. I like the sustainability language, which is more general, and this is specific stuff within that.
Well, we're going to keep these specific ones, yeah?
Yep, yep.
So is that then Sustainability Committee or is it Public Work Planning Board?
Maybe Sustainability Committee. I don't know.
Okay. Let me.
But Sam, that's a very specific act. I thought we were going to talk about sustainability in a more general executive position.
Right, but it can direct these kinds of things or make recommendations around.
Right,
these
but
kinds of
the
specific-
person who establishes the recycling committee would be the Public Works Planning Board.
No, the select board would have to do that.
Or
We're
the
not going to
select
have
board.
it. We said we weren't going to have a recycling.
but we're not going to have a recycling.
But the select board would establish the sustainability committee.
Yeah.
But then look to the sustainability committee to make recommendations, and ultimately, I guess the select board would be responsible for funding and making things happen from a managerial standpoint. But the day-to-day stuff would be sustainability committee. So, somehow you need to put the two together. I can't do that off the top of my head here, but I think we got the raw material to do that between these two.
All right. So we've agreed the principle. Let me merge this together. let me merge them together, and I can send out just an extract of this. So
Good.
I can take comments back, but don't forget, you have to send them back to me individually.
Yep.
So don't reply all. Yeah.
Yep.
I see that Freddie's here. Do we want to bring Freddie in for any comments on open space? We haven't seen Karen in a while.
Sure.
Sure, if they have any.
Hi there, it's Freddie Gillespie.
Hi, Freddie.
Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. Sorry to be jumping in kind of last minute. I didn't know you were reviewing any open space issues. So, but I think you've already done that.
Well, we did. So we reviewed, you had suggested a more on sustainability or climate change, and Debbie had written a paragraph on that and added some additional goals. Do you want to look at those, or is there something else you want to go over?
Or didn't know you were talking about this today, and so I don't want to tie up your committee. We had a couple of comments on language before that in the open space section, and I guess it's probably too late to go over most of this now, but I'm happy that you have the sustainability. We had concerns over the issues when you look at this document, which I looked at it as a standalone document, and then I got comment that it relates back to the chapter. My question is, if people are going to be able to look at this individually, that's a potential that they don't go and read the whole chapter. So the language needs to be clear what it's talking about without reading the chapter and referencing that in the way we reviewed it. And that was what some of our comments were about.
Oh, on the implementation chapter, do you want us to scroll back to open space?
Would you go to that section? I'll try to make it quick because I feel like I'm coming in at the tail end of something, and we reviewed this in line by line and did not have a proper understanding of what we were being asked for. Like in a recent comment, I heard someone say the timeline would be something and ongoing. We were told we couldn't have ongoing.
Well, because you made that comment, Judith has added an asterisk to short term, so it'll be short term and ongoing.
So we went through it and changed everything to long term because there was no way no one told me that. So I feel like I'm really not.
I did go back and actually, Freddie, apologies. I went back and gave an updated version to Karen.
So we have someone's been traveling and out of the country. So our committee hasn't been able to meet. And so I'm not sure there are too many comments when I got one just recently and I couldn't figure out what was what, so.
Okay, so Freddie, let's do this then, because it is important that, I mean, as Mimi said, we did definitely take on board your concerns over the ongoing. Let me send you and Karen an extract of the updated implementation plan section that includes those references. And then if you want to amend anything in terms of time frame, then just reply to me. Just please don't reply to the whole committee, just reply to myself and Karen.
Isn't this what we're looking at, the updated? So
no, because I haven't, sorry, we're looking at, we looked at the version that I sent you was the version that we looked at our previous meeting on April the 6th. What we're doing today is looking at additions on other chapters that have been made since April the 6th.
Okay. So our recommendations, I understand where we felt that it was better for the Concom to take the invasive species. That was a flat out open space does it. And if we're not going to find funding and get it done, we should take it out of the plan. Is that still the comment?
Freddie, what we talked about, and I talked about this with Melissa, is that the important thing to remember about responsibility is that the term responsibility relates to actually overseeing that the work gets done. It doesn't necessarily mean that the work has to get done by the committee that's responsible for it. It's the overriding responsibility. The Conservation Commission, I talked with Melissa about this, and she and myself as the conservation rep both agreed that because the invasive species was something that was presented by the OSPC as a core recommendation for the master plan, that responsibility should remain with them. The Conservation Commission has responsibility for mitigation on invasive species on individual projects, but at the moment they don't have that overall charge across it. And I do remember when we talked about this way back with Karen in one of our working groups, that she, shared the view that of the OSPC that it was a really core recommendation that was part of their remit.
Yeah. So again, and I don't know, maybe this is an offline conversation. We were not understanding that things we felt were really important for natural resources for the town, the whole town, were, because we recommended them, that they then became our responsibility. And I won't object to the responsibility as long as this chapter that describes who's responsible makes that clear. I didn't find that language, and maybe I missed it, but my concern is that people will use this to say, you were supposed to do this and you didn't. And I understand now that's not the intent of this, but the this heading for what this all means needs to make that clear, what exactly responsibility is laying out for these different organizations. Because if you notice, we certainly don't want the invasive stuff taken out, but if you notice, it's like what I've been told, it's now dealing with all insects, spotted lanternfly, jumping worms, gypsy moth, and the emerald ash borer. This is a very vast area. Every other town I know of, their conservation commission is the one dealing with it because they have more authority, staffing, and ability to handle this. But rather than not have it get done, our commission has been the only group in town really working on it, but on specific site projects. And we do provide outreach and education on it. So rather than not have it get done, I think it's okay for us to keep it as long as what that responsibility is made clear. My concern is in the future, people will point fingers at us and say, you didn't live up to your obligation. And I just want to be sure we're not being set up for that. Not intentionally by this committee, but if it's not made clear what responsibility means.
So I think the language in the plan, Freddie, does make it clear. I'll go back and take another look at it.
At the top of the
one of the things that as a master plan committee we've discussed in a significant amount of detail is that the important thing about this plan is that it gets executed, because the plan is just the plan until you actually put, the time and the effort and the resources behind it. And we're actually going to be having a separate or new implementation group. There wasn't an implementation group in 2008. There will be an implementation group, and the role of that group, it will be a subcommittee to the planning board, because the planning board has overall responsibility for the master plan, and they'll be working with other committees to help surface issues and concerns to feed back to the planning board on progress on the plan. So again, we'd be very happy to kind of meet with you as we go into implementation and talk about the best way to get some of this done. We know what's happened in other towns is on the back of the master plan, there's actually been changes to the organization of some of the committees in towns. That's not a recommendation in this plan at this point, other than to establish a sustainability committee. But if over time we find that there needs to be organizational changes, then that's the sort of thing that would go to the planning board and to the select board for review as well.
And to town meeting, right? Yeah, some of these.
If it's a committee that requires, approval at town meeting, yeah.
So just make sure that the responsibility here, I will say, as far as the last master plan, I think when you started this, we went through what our requirements were, and the Open Space Preservation Commission had a very high accomplishment rate. I don't recall it now, but because we use the plan, we use the open space and rec plan. You were one of the only few that have, but anyhow, so we did have concern about questions on a couple of, is this the final from the 2000 and, the April 6th?
I sent, I can't remember, Freddie, the version that I sent to you and Karen. I can resend that to you.
No, but what's on the screen right now?
No, this is not, this is, as I said, this is a version of the document that we're discussing other people's updates since April the 6th.
So this is,
you'll see there aren't the timeframes and funding.
I understand that. I'm talking about the language.
These are the goals and recommendations that have been out there for over a year. Yeah.
Because in our Open Space Commission, we had some comments on some language under the Trails Committee. Because
okay.
Now, is that something you can discuss or not?
I think we did discuss it on April 6th, and
So,
there were some changes made.
So under the goal for connectivity and access, that I really feel that should be referencing trails here, because the Open Space Commission does the same thing, but on a different level, with looking at connectivity of connecting open space with wildlife, with preserving it. And I think this is confusing. It's confusing to me. Are we not, who's in charge of that work?
So do you have a specific number, Freddie? Because I'm now showing.
Well, I'm seeing what's on my screen. Am I not looking at your screen?
2.0, OS 2.0, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, it just went away.
So that was the Trails Committee.
It is the Trails Committee. The goal doesn't specify it's for trails. I don't know what I'm looking at now.
I guess
This is- this
we
is
have to
the
explain
April-
what that column is. I think
This
the
is the
problem
April
is
6th committee. Sorry, this is the version of the document from April 6th, Freddie, that I sent to you and Karen. So is it the goal that you have a concern over?
I have a concern. I have a concern with the goal. It does not specify it's for the trails, even though the Trails Committees, the way this reads is the Trails Committee is now in charge of or responsible for connecting all open space, and it's not specific to trail use. The Open Space Preservation Commission, charged with facilitating the preservation of open space. This is within our charge by town meeting, looking at connecting open space properties, connection for wildlife, making wildlife habitat. This is within our charge. And this here looks like now it's being shifted to the Trails Committee, when I think the intent is that they're looking at making trail connections. That's not clear there. And if you go to the next one, you go up a bit because you're scrolling down, I can't see it.
Yeah, okay, sorry, just a sec. Let me find a clean version, because I think this is going to get really confusing if we're not using. Just bear with me a minute while I find a clean version, if you will.
I just want to be sure there's clarity. It doesn't get confusing. It doesn't get confusing when there's, going to town meeting for funding, who's responsible for this. If we're looking for funding for doing connectivity outreach, that we're not told, no, you can't, because it's the master plan says it's not yours. A lot of our work is in the master plan, is in our open space and rec plan outline, but that doesn't carry through to the master plan, right?
So if it said trail connections, would that make you feel better?
Yeah, and there was a couple of other places there as well.
Okay.
When she goes back. It was a simple recommendation, just say relating to trails.
Okay. Could everyone see that?
Nope.
No.
You gotta share again.
Sorry.
Here we go.
And before we go further, I do want to say thank you for the, I know what tremendous amount of work you have put in to get to this point. This is an extremely complicated process, so these are just minor edit comments, right?
So expand trail connectivity.
Yeah,
So just add that
Or-
word.
or no, expand connectivity and access. I mean, not just trail connectivity, because then it goes on to say all the rest. So like expand connectivity and trail access, you know? I don't know. It's not just trail connectivity.
Okay.
And then if you go down to the
So,
record,
all right, before we go down, what is it that we want this to say?
Well, so I think we either change the goal and leave the responsibility with the Trails Committee, or we keep the goal as is and put the responsibility with open space and preservation, which I think is what Freddie is saying. That's
No,
their
I'm not.
remit.
So
I mean,
No, she's not.
if you were to add the word expand connectivity of trails and access to existing open space, would that meet the objective, Freddie?
I think as long as the access to open space is clear via trails. It's not clear that the trails carries through to the rest of the goal. Access to existing open space is different than trail access. So how do you make however you want to rephrase it to make trail?
Is it
For-
access to appropriate open space or access via the trail system without compromising?
Expand connectivity and access to existing open space via the trail system. That's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
That looks good.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you. So that's perfect. It makes it really clear because that's what the Trails Committee wants to be working on, right?
Okay, all
We
right,
don't
so
object
next.
to that. So if you go down to the recommendations. Keep going. Okay, it was OS 2.4. I think that might have already been changed.
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
Okay, because
trails
you
are-
added trails because and the concern there was the Open Space Preservation Commission does this outreach and
Okay, so what next?
So we have two. So there's now two, Freddie, because we separated them out. So 2.4 specifically speaks about trails.
Okay,
And then 2.6 is about open space.
was that added in?
What we did was we took the words we took the edits to the recommendations that you'd asked for, and we updated 2.6.
Okay, thank you. And that's ours and short term is fine. You scroll down a little.
Oops.
And 2.8, you've already addressed our concerns, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it.
Thanks, Freddie.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
I don't
Right.
think we're having an open space meeting before town meeting. To support this officially, but were you looking for that? Because I didn't know you were going to town meeting.
You can jump up and clap when I do the update at the beginning of town meeting. That will suffice.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Oh, and thank you for the sustainability committee. I think that's smart.
Okay. Where did we get to? Let me go back to the. Where did I go to now? Share screen. Here we go. So I have to find where we left off. Hang on a sec. Comments. We did housing. ET was okay. Okay.
Can I ask one more question while you're scrolling? This is Freddie again. You now have an asterisk for ongoing. We can look at again, and because I had taken all the ongoing out. So
Yes, and I one of the things I have to do, Freddie, is to go back to all the original sources and make sure that where people are put ongoing, we have an asterisk on it. So I still have that to do.
So I went back and took it all out and redid it, so I can revisit that. I don't know how many versions of, what I'm saying is there's a lot of versions of this as we tried to update it to meet what we thought you were looking for. So we can revisit that again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this can everyone see this?
Yep.
Comment from Mimi here or question from Mimi?
What's the question?
It says, why is the select board minimal involvement with new development? This was just a recommendation from the rec committee, work with the select board and EDC to ensure new residential commercial development includes funds for recreation.
Oh, so it sounded to me like that's mitigation money in developments, and I didn't know where the select board would fit in that, because residential developments go before the planning board, unless it's a 40B in which the select board could make recommendations on mitigation funds. But that was my only question.
40B is a ZBA though.
Right.
They negotiate those.
But it goes to select board first to get the approval letter or whatever.
for the application. Yeah.
Right.
But historically, the ZBA has independently, which has been a problem, negotiated those mitigation amounts.
Yeah. Well, so my question was, shouldn't that be the planning board on residential development?
Yep.
Works for me.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, unfortunately, we haven't got Kristen here, but this was, so 3.5, 3.6, the suggestion was that would be selected.
We have Freddie raising her hand.
Go ahead, Freddie.
The question about the golf course that was on the, if you scroll by it, that's rec, not the golf course committee. It's a,
Say that again. I lost you.
so up top, you had something about the golf course. And you have rec being in charge of it.
Oh, so this is an example where REC has overall responsibility to make sure it gets done. They don't necessarily have to do the work.
Okay. I'm just saying you have a golf course committee who would probably be in charge of that. But it says the
Should
golf
we-
course committee report. Never mind.
But they're not one of the key organizations. So
Okay. So rec would work with them. I'm only
Yeah.
asking because I've got some projects ongoing for the golf course and
Yeah,
I need to meet with
it's-
rec. I need to know that.
Yeah, it's absolutely kind of key for this implementation that the responsible party collaborates with all and every other board and commission that's involved with that. The reason why we've gone to a single responsibility is because in 2008, there was this multiple committees all had responsibility, and there was, you know, the view of the master plan committee was that was in some cases why things didn't get done, because
Yeah.
you know, boards and commissions felt it was someone else's job to get started or to pursue it through. So it's very much about saying this is the group that says we're going to make sure it gets done, as opposed to saying we're doing it. So absolutely, we would look for rec to be saying to the golf course committee, hey, you know, you have a plan, you know, let's make sure that it happens.
So this is going to go to my next comment, and we had made it before the April 6th meeting, that, and I understand that perspective. I think there were opportunities in here in the goal to include who their partners may be, because like when it goes down to rec here, there's one about butterfly walks and stuff for recreation. And it just seems to make sense to me that you would say collaborating with the Open Space Preservation Commission, because we're doing that. Not that we'd want to, you know, that rec can't do it too, but there were other places where adding in who you're collaborating with makes sense.
So the overall approach we're taking is that, because this is the plan and not the detailed implementation plan, we've not included in most cases other partnering and collaborating boards and commissions. What we're looking for is when we get into more detailed implementation, and as I said, there's going to be a separate subcommittee of the planning board that will kind of support this, is that we're looking for the boards and commissions with the responsibility to start working on more detailed action plans that will include who they're going to be collaborating with.
So when you go to R 2.2, the concern is that's what the Open Space Commission's already doing. So we are deeply engaged in nature-based passive recreation programs, gardening, bird watching, butterflies, all of that's what we do.
So do you want us to put in open space instead of rec?
Okay. It's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're responsible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a
We want to
question
work
going
with rec though, but
can I ask a question going back up to the golf course committee? Freddie, you bring up an interesting point that, you know, there's a revolving fund for the golf course, that the golf course, you know, looks at improvements. I don't know why we wouldn't have the golf committee there versus recreation. Recreation really isn't involved in any way in the improvements on the golf course. They have a revolving fund for that. If there's additional monies that are needed, it can come from, you know, through a warrant article through the selectmen. So that's just my recommendation, that it be the golf course committee for that.
So we'd have to add the golf course committee.
Yeah, you
top
can,
two.
that's my yellow highlighting.
Sorry,
Okay.
Judith.
Edit.
I just think it makes sense. Freddie brought up a good point. So,
because I've been working on the golf course before the town owned it, and there's never been any rec involvement there. We want
Okay.
rec involved, but to bring kids to play golf, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
Okay, so where are we? I think those are all there. These are all. Oh, Mimi, I didn't put you. Did you put thing? This is a different version, but did we do planning board there? I don't think I have that. Short term, medium term.
Yeah, medium.
for both.
No, I don't know if planning board would be maintenance and reconstruction.
Hmm. Yeah, would that be select board?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then Judith, I missed under the goal. I must have missed for 2.0. I would do that as short term.
Which
I don't
one?
know.
Sorry, Lisa, which one?
The
under
goal for
goals.
Right
2.0. Yeah, right underneath. I don't know how I missed that. So I would do short term.
Oh, those
Oh,
are
the
the ones
goals, we
where
don't do time frame.
Yeah, we
Okay.
don't do those. In the
I didn't
final
miss it.
version, they're kind of blocked out.
Okay, fine. So I didn't miss it then. Okay, I'm
No,
thinking, how did
you
I
did
do
not.
that?
You
Okay,
did not.
thank you.
These are just a couple of edits from Kate on the historical commission. Okay. This is part of the community. So maybe
Oh,
added these in when you did your final the previous read through.
yeah, my concern here was we're making recommendations that are against Mass General law.
So specific to 3.8, Mimi, virtual in-person town meetings, according to what Mr. Haggerty has said, that's just something that isn't going to be allowed.
Right,
Unless probably for a representative.
yeah. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
That open town meetings have to be in person.
yep.
So maybe add to both of these as may be permitted by Mass General law.
But well, in this, my second thing on town meetings, I think having people watching virtually and punching in votes is impossible. Like, how do you know if they're residents? How do you know if someone's not voting from 15 different, computers within their house? I just think that is just not doable. It's not allowed in Mass General laws, and it's never going to happen.
I
would-
agree.
So should we take that out?
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mimi, it's Debbie. One thing I think Jim is following up on is the use of electronic voting, but you're right.
You're
it has
in the
to-
house.
Yes.
You're in the house, you're in the
Yeah.
hall.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that's really very interesting, I think, and also very important is because people are very much persuaded by the person sitting next to them. But when you have like a clicker, if you've ever been to one of these large meetings and you do these little votes, it's sort of your vote from your heart. It's how you feel. And so
Yeah.
it's a more representation of how people feel rather than if they're afraid their neighbors are going to look down upon them. So it's quite interesting. And I don't know if we have a goal on that, but I know Jim's been looking into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Debbie. And he is, and the hope is, to be able to test that or use that between potentially at a fall or an annual town meeting, the next annual town meeting. So
Nice.
could we adjust this
Yeah.
to mention that point that, I don't know what you'd call the clickers, but
I think it's electronic voting. I don't know if there's a, and I would just say, in speaking with Jim, the current town moderator isn't supportive right now, but I think he was looking for more kind of data on how's it working with, for the same reasons. He doesn't want any interference. There has to be true data.
So I don't know if that's necessary to put in here as
I don't either. I don't know if
a
it's the town
recommendation,
moderator.
because he's already doing it. And
right.
it's this whole convoluted thing. So,
Well, I think it might be more likely to get through because if we have our town moderator, I feel like, we wouldn't want him to be him or her, whoever the future is going to be, to be the one to say, no, we're not going to do this. I don't like it. I mean, the idea behind these goals was to try to increase participation. And if people feel like their neighbor, let's say they're going to vote against something and they think their neighbors are going to look down on them, they may not come to a meeting. So And I think it would be kind of nice, Lisa, to have, and Mimi, to have a goal to kind of promote this and test it at some future meetings.
Yeah, I agree, Deb. I think it's important. And I agree with you as well that, you know, sometimes it does make a difference when the room is looking to see how somebody's voting and, you know, your neighbor's sitting next to you. I completely agree with you on that.
And not to mention on close votes, it would be way quicker than standing up and being
Oh,
counted.
You might put you at town meetings, either annual or special. So if you just put
Yeah.
for town meetings.
And just as an update actually to 37 for the virtual Zoom. So the Board of Selectmen had, obviously it was a marathon 5-hour meeting. How Sam, just over 5 hours, but
I asked Sam if he had to adjourn to attend this meeting.
I know it was, I think we walked out of the townhouse at 12:10, but I will say we use the new OWL technology, which allows for hybrid, and, you know, with in-person and the public zooming in. And Sam, I think it went very well. We didn't have any real issues last night at all with it. We're looking forward to, you know, outfitting other meeting rooms for that. So even after the governor's order on 7/15 expires, that we can continue to have these meetings taped, which is what the public wants, and increase the participation. So I just want to add that's a real exciting thing that's happening real time now, and is going to grow to a couple more meeting rooms.
So on, just to go back to 3.8, I would put in-person electronic voting, just to be clear that it's not.
Yeah.
Lisa, I think that's awesome. I tuned in for part of your meeting last night, and I thought it was extremely.
I'm sorry, Debbie, before you scroll, Judith, I just have on that one, the one right before, Sam had suggested as allowed by Mass General Law on 3.7.
Oh, yes.
Okay, sorry, Debbie.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think in a way that the hybrid use or the OWL, whatever, to allow, you know, the Zoom, virtual Zoom and in person, in my mind also, it satisfies a lot of different things, obviously, but also there's a lot of people with disabilities, and as much as our, you know, townhouse is accessible and everything, they may not be able to drive, or they may have a debilitating migraine, or they might have something, other reason that they just don't want the public to see them. And in my mind, this has really come out over COVID and the use of Zoom. The Zoom's become the great equalizer. You don't really need to have a reason to, you know, whether you want to be on Zoom or not. You obviously could be in a different location, but I think it's nice from kind of a disability perspective also, that nobody needs to know you have a disability or you're undergoing chemo or whether, or anything like that. You can just Zoom in. I just think it's one of the most fantastic things that's happened over COVID. And I just want to, you know, say thank you. We should definitely continue. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, and I'll just add one final point to that, Devin. I completely agree. And to see the number of views on YouTube now that all the boards and committees are taped, and the level of involvement from the community in being educated and knowing what's going on with the committees is truly a wonderful thing. So we're excited. You know, I know Sam was pretty excited about it as well, to, you know, to get the OWL working and up and going. And, you know, again, we're not talking a lot of money to do it. So it was great.
And we had over 100 views of a select board meeting recently, which is pretty impressive. People are definitely masochistic, I guess.
Are you looking online while people are dialed into the meeting? Are you keeping numbers from dial-ins as well?
I'm not looking online.
No. Okay.
I would put on 3.8, Judith, I would put in-person electronic voting, just so it's clear that you have to go to town.
That's where the in-person goes before.
Yeah.
Voting. Yeah.
I just want to point out Freddie's hand is raised, and I don't know if it's raised from a previous question or if it's a new one.
Go ahead, Freddie.
I think you addressed it, but I just wanted to be sure that you're saying investigate potential, because I think going to electronic voting, even at town meeting, there may be other views besides, I mean.
Yeah, it says
It says
investigate.
Yeah.
So that takes care of it, because I think it's a big deal to change that type of town meeting process. So I don't think everyone necessarily agrees that the electronic voting is the best.
No, including our
That's fine.
town moderator who has the final word.
I did hear that it's for when we have the stand up and vote, and that would be a trial run, which could be really, quick in the process, but
Yeah.
so
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, let us move on. Yeah, I think that one, some of this is already there. These were just updates from, okay. We are done.
Excellent.
Good.
Good job, everybody.
Now let's
So
do
I just
pictures.
Yeah, sorry, just before we go, you saw a kind of an early version of that, but I just want to show you the fact that we do have, and this is what's going to go, this is what's going to come out for the review, for public review. So we do have now a fully formatted version of, I'm going quickly so you can see it, but it is, I think it looks very smart, and we've got the figures and the maps and everything in there. So
Nice.
you will see, you will be able to read the whole thing, just like Mimi. in one
And
go.
it's an easy read. I
Get your
enjoyed
glass of, get your coffee or glass of wine.
it.
One thing we do have to agree, Mimi, we'll come back to it, is how we're going to take public comments back. But let's do photos, because I know Kat was has been very patient here.
So how do we want to do this? We had a vote, right? But then, so we've had some people vote on the pictures they want to choose for the master plan, and then some did not vote. And then Sam, you had an interesting idea. Do you want to speak to that idea?
Sure, happy to float it out there. As I was going through the photos, I was having an extraordinarily hard time prioritizing them, because there are so many what I think of as very wonderful photos there that to select a couple from each of the groups was, I thought, pretty challenging. And as I started thinking about it, I think there's an interesting possibility to actually create what I think of as a parallel storyline here. So the photographic version of what we're doing, why we're doing it, et cetera. Because I think, to me at least, the photos speak a lot more eloquently than a lot of the text does, as far as why we're going through this process. One of the things that I think is an important point to connect to the residents is showing people the places that they are familiar with, that they value, and some of the reasons they want to live in Southborough. I think it's a special place, and those photos to me reinforce why that's the case. And I think, at least the thought that I had was maybe thinking about some sort of a forward here that sort of outlines parallel storyline in the photos, and then including a large number of photos, not huge one per page kind of photos, but smaller versions of many of these to reinforce the points as we go through the plan language, and find ways to connect to people who will look at it and say, oh, I know that place. I think that's a wonderful viewpoint there, et cetera. Or, that's my photo in the master plan, to, again, connect the words to people's emotions, if you will, as part of this process. Because I think that, again, what we have in Southborough is an interesting combination of open spaces and recreational opportunities, and sort of in many ways a semi-rural environment in certain places, as these photos reinforce, in a location, larger context, where you've got access to commercial activity, transportation, research, educational assets, et cetera, and a pretty unusual series of combinations here. And so it seems to me, again, having a way to reinforce that visual message simultaneously with the words increases the impact of the plan. At least it does for me. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but I think there's an interesting possibility here to connect on a different level than the words by more active use of photos here. And we need to, if we did that, we'd need to fill in some blank spaces because this, again, typically focuses more on recreational, open space kinds of things, which is wonderful, but you need to be a little more balanced with it. So again, random thought I had as I was working through this thing, but I think there's an interesting opportunity there. I don't know how people feel about that, but be interesting.
What about a collage, Sam?
Where would we put that? At the back or someplace?
In the
or-
back.
Yeah, at the end.
Kind of how what was did we have was the town warrant a big collage of everybody's Zoom pictures last year?
Oh,
Does
yeah,
anyone
yeah, yeah.
remember that? Some of us got freeze framed in weird mouth formations.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of report.
Unfortunately.
That was a very neat
yeah.
idea.
I mean, I could see almost like a collage that with the wording of the vision statement woven through it.
Like a great place to live, you mean?
Well, a great place to live was maybe a headline of the collage, but then underneath a great place to live, we've got the bullets that say, how will we know when we've got there? Because, we'll have connected towns and great recreation. So, you could have a collage of all of the photos and then overlaid on that, those kind of what makes it a great place to live.
Oh, I see.
And to me, the message there too also is, why are we doing this? Why are we doing the master plan? And that's where the photos speak to me, at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need someone arty though to do the collage.
Yeah. Who's
And that's
creative
really
and good
me.
at collages?
Not my thing, I'm afraid.
Well, I mean, I would help, but I'm not going to say I'm creative. Like,
You are.
I would contribute and be happy to contribute to help make it work. So I like that idea. And so I do need to let folks know, we were going to let them know if we were going to use their picture, and we do need to consider how we do picture credits. So, do we have a little index of these are all the people that contributed pictures versus assigning names to pictures? I want to be sensitive about, we were very specific about giving photo credit. So we want to make sure we're acknowledging that in some way. But I don't love the idea of putting everyone's name on everyone's picture. It takes away a little bit from the collage.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think if we have a
We
collection.
can add it. We can
Yeah,
add
I
it
think-
to the acknowledgements.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
photo
still
credits.
think I still think there's a opportunity to add some photos into the chapter.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep,
Yes, no doubt.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's important to break up the monotony of a written page. I agree completely.
Particularly in Sam's chapter.
That's right. I actually put the photos in front of the text, so.
Oh, we don't see it.
That's right.
So did we get a vote then for which, or are we now saying we're going to put them all in either in the text or in
We could use the votes to help prioritize what we think would go in the chapters. Right?
Yeah.
There's still going to be some decision making that the committee will have. We'll say this goes here, this goes there. That's what we can do, and then we can just use our top choices. And obviously, if we feel like one, even if it wasn't voted top, I mean, is the committee comfortable? Like, obviously, we need the pictures to make sense. A lot of the pictures that came in were nature and open space oriented. That's not going to work for every chapter. So we're going to have to kind of use some judgment to ensure the pictures kind of work for that chapter. So there's going to be some flexibility within the voting. So we can use this as a guideline, but not be so rigid in the way that we define it.
Didn't Gina Glazomitsky volunteer to take a few additional pictures if we had places that we needed to fill in?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And then we haven't seen her since.
she's out taking photographs. That's why
Yeah.
she can't make the meetings. I think the two areas where, actually there's 3 areas, I think, just as I went through the photos again, the 3 areas that I think where we're lacking is housing, because we do have some pictures of housing, but we don't really have pictures that show diversity of housing. You know, there am I allowed to say that? I'll say it.
Yeah.
There's the big houses, but not smaller houses.
Yes.
And then we don't have anything for schools. And we also probably need a 1 or 2 on for economic development. Maybe just a picture of, you know, downtown, you know, the downtown village as is. So yeah, I think if Gina can take a few, or we just go back to the 2008 chapter and see if there's anything in there we could find.
Yeah. Or, you know, maybe a picture of Madison Place, for example, for the.
We could
Yeah.
reach out to I'd be happy to reach out to EDC and see if they have any stock photos. I'm certain they do from their past.
Oh,
work
yeah.
that they
I'm
might
sure
want
they
to
Yeah, that would be a great
Yeah.
idea.
contribute. And then, you know, housing, do we still have Tom here? I don't want to put him on the spot.
There might be
Yeah.
pictures in the housing, in the HPP.
Oh, I'm here. I'm just off video.
You have bad hair day too? Yeah, I got
Feeding the dog.
My dogs are whiny because somebody forgot to feed them this morning.
Oh,
That's criminal. Criminal.
So Tom, if you have some pictures, any housing pictures you could share, just can you send those to Kat?
Yeah, I'll see what pictures we have. I'll see what I have and I'll give them to you, Kat.
And if you don't, we'll reach out to Gina and see if she can help us with that one. And then the other one is schools. So I'm curious if, is it, who just joined us today?
Katura.
Yeah, sure. Do you think she would be, I know she's very busy, so it might not be a great use of her time.
yeah, I'm not sure she has that kind of stuff necessarily.
Okay, so maybe that's a request. Tom, you confirm with your housing pictures and then we reach out to Gina and say, hey, can you help us get housing and schools or just schools?
Yeah. And,
You know,
and
pictures of
Catherine and Judith both, it is actually easy to snag the photos out of the 2008 plan. You can copy those easily and we can reuse those. They look to me like they got pretty good fidelity in terms.
Oh,
of
you're looking at them now. Okay.
production.
Then yeah, maybe in the interest of time, we do that.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a source. They have a number of them there that are not too inspiring, but at least they can fill in some of the blanks maybe.
So Kat, are you gonna do a pass to say, so just let me put this out there. Realistically, we are not gonna get these pictures in the version that's gonna go out to the public.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
you
with me,
may,
I don't
because
have-
it's too much to try and do it. It's
Good.
gonna take the rest of the week just to get the formatting and the final checking done.
Perfect.
I don't think we need that for the public at this point.
Yeah,
no,
The
no,
Words are
no.
things that the people care about
Yeah.
at this point, I
Yep.
think.
Great. That takes some pressure off. So yeah, I can make it, I can take a first stab at making some recommendations. And then we can go from there. But I will need, you know, what Tom has and I'll reach out to EDC now actually. And when so I should work with, who was it, Mimi and Judith offline? No,
Yeah.
Sure.
okay. And so realistically, yeah, this won't happen until after town meeting.
Yeah,
We won't be
I'm
able to- Okay.
I mean, so what we're trying to do is have a version that is final enough to be able to post on the web with a QR code and say that, you know, we ideally want to have that at least available by next Monday, so we can say, so Mimi can say at town meeting, it is there. Okay. And then I think the next checkpoint is Mimi and I are due to go to a joint planning board, select board meeting on the 6th of June. So obviously we'll need to have the final version
Hey, I'm
before
just
then.
finishing out master plan. Can I call you right back?
Okay.
Okay, bye.
So if we say, you know, by by Memorial Day, we want to have all the photos kind of done and all the public comment back.
I have 1 week, I'm gonna be out. My niece is graduating in Arizona, so, but that should work.
Okay. And Mimi, how do you want to take public feedback on the plan?
I guess people can just reach out to either you or I.
I hesitate to say me just because I'm going to be in Europe for a month. So,
Or me.
or me. Unless we get, what do you think the chances of getting, is it Jason to set up a dedicated email?
Oh, I don't know.
That's a smart
Probably do
idea. I
that.
bet they could set up an alias that would not necessarily cost money. And it could be, well, you want it to be they go to that email and then that email box gets all the messages and then you go to that email versus it
Yeah.
coming to you directly. Okay.
Yeah.
What about like one of those forms, like if you go on the DPW form, unless you know the individual emails, it says, contact somebody at DPW, and then like a form pops up and you write what you want into that box and it goes off, but you never see the email. And I suppose it could be a box, you could have multiple people on it. I know there's one set up, maybe other departments have it, but I know DPW has it. And then they could just type in what they want and blast it off and not have to worry about an email.
So it'd be on the master plan website, you think, a form?
Yeah,
a
maybe
form.
send your comments here. And I suppose you could probably put multiple names on the email box so Mimi doesn't get bombarded, or maybe, but it's simply that. It says, it's just a blank open form and you can write your comments and send it off.
Maybe-
I don't
maybe
know
they
how
can-
well it
yeah,
works, by the way.
Can I jump in? Whenever
Yeah.
I get one of those, I don't send the email. You have to fill out this huge form. You never know if you get a response. Like some of ours, in Town Gov, when you click on somebody's name to send an email, it pops up with that box. And, it's like, I'm not spending that much time to fill out a form to send a message that I never know. And it's not, I don't have a record of it. It doesn't stay in your email.
Oh,
So you
that's
can't
true.
say, there's a lot of reasons against doing that. And I just will go and not send it ever.
Why don't I talk to Jason? I have to go over there and talk to him about where we store the documents anyway, so.
Yeah, that would be cool to have an email that was
And
specific to that.
An email, an email box.
Mhm.
So that, so I have 3 minutes at the town meeting in Article 1 to give a report.
3
How fast
minutes?
can you talk?
3 minutes. So,
We came, we saw, we did it. We met, we did the master plan. Here's the QR code.
Wave
Well,
a big
so-
document at them.
Let's do it in Latin. Vini, vici, vini, whatever that saying is.
then you'll have to do the 3 minutes, Tom. I don't do Latin. I barely do English. So I was just going to give an update, thank everyone on the committee, mention that we did this ourselves with a very small,
Minimal cost.
yes, technical assistance grant at the very, very beginning, but this was written by all volunteer residents in the town of South.
And it's taken, what, 3 years?
Mhm.
Yeah, 3 years. Point that out.
And I think it was over 2 years for the last one that was written by the consultants. So we're not doing bad. And we had
I
a
think it was
pandemic
longer than
thrown
that.
in there.
Yeah.
I think it
3
was longer
plus,
than
actually.
that, because I talked to Jack Bartolini in Dunkin' Donuts the other day, and he said, oh yeah, it took us almost 3 years. Because I said it had taken a while because of COVID, and he said, no, it took us almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, so
2020, 2030, it'll be done much quicker, but it won't be probably by us. We can write a playbook.
Guaranteed.
My view jumping in so late is the accountability part is so huge. I mean,
Mhm.
that's like amazing. And that's what people complain about from the last version is this great master plan, but how are people accountable? So I'd spend a little time on that, maybe, Mimi. Not people, but like, for the goal, the committees, the boards or whatever for the goals.
A good point, Mimi, because that's one of the things we tried to stress in this thing. You might want to mention that.
I would just be careful about the messaging that we spin it in a way, and spin is not the right word, but we frame it in a way that is positive, and we're not saying that the last group didn't, that the last plan was bad. It was just, we heard you, we saw this as an opportunity, really a positive approach to this is how we changed our approach moving forward, which we think will be far more effective for the committee and the town.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kat.
Mimi, just a heads up, I have to jump off. I have a 9:30 Zoom call. So just a heads up. I don't know if that's going to affect quorum.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a 9:30 hard stop.
Okay.
Oh, okay, so,
I think we're pretty much done, apart from minutes, aren't we, Mimi?
Minutes.
yeah,
We're close.
minutes. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes from April 6th?
So moved.
In a
Seconded.
second? Very good. Roll call vote. Watson,
Yes.
Signs,
Yes.
Stivers,
Yes.
Braccio,
Aye.
Markleer,
Aye.
McKee,
Aye.
and Latrell. Aye. Very good. I don't think we have any, do we have?
Freddie, I think Freddie still has a hand up. I don't know if that's an old one or a new one.
I'm
Public
sorry, I
co-
lower it and it jumps up again. I don't know how. I'm nowhere near it. It's like got a mind of its own, so I apologize.
No
Or a
worries.
hand of its own.
And Tim is also here. Do you have anything you want to add, Tim? Just raise your hand. Not seeing his hand. Okay, a date for the next meeting. So what is everybody all done, Judith? So all we need is pictures
Just need
and
pictures.
Sam.
Sam's chapter, yes. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to touch base the week of the 9th after town meeting, just to debrief a little bit to see if anything came out of that.
The 11th.
Follow up on.
We could meet at Ola. They have the tents up outside and we could do a wrap-up party at the same time.
We're having a wrap-up party at Vickery Hills or Vickery Estates at
There we go.
Judith's Clubhouse.
Oh,
We
I
have-
wasn't
just-
aware. Awesome.
We haven't set the date yet. So does that work for everyone? May
11th?
11th?
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, back at nighttime?
Let's try PM. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 7 PM?
Okay.
Sure.
I will not be there, but I'll send good vibes.
You can zoom in.
Well, that might be a quorum buster.
Are you there the week afterwards, the 18th
I'm away
for May?
I'm away for May. Don't, let me just see. Where am I?
Mimi, can I give a quick plug to everybody? Check your emails for the volunteer appreciation breakfast.
I
If you could-
already put my vote in. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. If you could do, fill out the Survey Monkey, everyone should have gotten an email. That would be much appreciated. It's also an opportunity at that time for us to honor Mr. Morris and his 41 years of service to the planning board. So just a quick plug for that.
And you're going to reach
Sure.
out to him because he won't come Because
I will-
he'll say he's done.
I will personally take care of that.
Okay, very good.
Is
Thank
that
you
the
very much.
longest? Is that the longest anyone's ever volunteered for town? Do you know the longest?
I think that's it.
That'll
I
be
It
think
could be,
in, and Mark Posimato on conservation is 31 years. So another pretty incredible. Yeah.
Okay, I may be able to make the 11th because I'm actually in Cape Verde and they're only 2 hours behind. 3 hours ahead of New York. What does that mean? 3 hours, 7.
New York's the same as us.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying. What does that mean? It's 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, 10 p.m.
I might be able to. Depends if I can find somewhere with Wi-Fi to do it. I'll try.
Okay,
But
let's
if
aim
not-
for that then.
So are you gone for the entire month of May?
Pretty
Miss-
much. I'm back on the 26th. I'm back for Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, okay. All right. And I'm gone, so.
It's fine. We'll just have to get.
All
Who
right.
else? Who else? Yeah, we just need to make sure we've got a quorum. Who else is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who else is quorumable? Katura,
Mhm.
Gina,
Chris, Gina.
Gina. All right. I think that's it.
Okay.
Make sure no hands.
motion to adjourn.
Nice job, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you, Judith.
Thank you, Judith.
Thank you.
Yes.
We all know.
Thank you, Kat, for the
What you've
pictures.
done.
They're great.
Well, we all deserve a pat on the back.
Indeed.
And you'll really appreciate it once you read the whole thing through. It's actually very impressive. All right, so Sam, you motioned. Was there a second?
Second,
Very good. Roll call, Watson,
Yes.
Signs,
yes.
Stivers,
Yes,
Braccio,
Hi.
Markleer,
Yes.
McKee,
Yes.
and Latrell. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. See you at
Wonderful.
town meeting.
Have a
Thank you,
good day.
Mimi.
Oh, and candidates night tonight.
tonight.
Yeah.
Open meeting law training too. Have fun.
Yeah.
Hey, how did that happen on the same night?
Serendipity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Colleen.